right, what is going on, amazing people? My name is Ben and I'm 18 years old, and this is going to be a case study of how I've been able to take this brand from zero to over $1 million from December 7th to January 31st. Now, the present day is February, so you may be thinking, hey Ben, is this brand gone? No, it's still here. It's still running in present day, which is why I'm not going to be going over the product, but I'm still going to be releasing a lot of in-depth strategies that I use to pretty much be able to scale this brand to where it's at today. I remember when I was first a beginner, I'd look at case studies kind of similar to this in the 7-figure range, and I'd look at that and be like, what is that person doing different than what I'm doing? The truth being told is it's not much difference. The only thing is there's a lot of things we're gonna go over in this video of things that add up to really be able to help you achieve this number. And if you go ahead and implement those steps after you watch this video, I can tell you right now that it will pay off. You know, it's just crazy as enough as it sounds. It's pretty much just a mindset shift, and it's attacking things every single day and continuing to grow off the momentum that you have. Now you can see here from December 7th to January 31st, we've done over $1 million in revenue. We'll do a refresh check real quick and we'll go into some other of our analytics that we have right here. So over $1 million in revenue, and exactly we have $1,093,952.20 with 350,000 store sessions, a 3.47 customer return rate. And honestly, in my book, a 3.47% customer return rate isn't actually that good. We have been able to get this brand to around a 10% customer return rate. And why was it so low when we were at our peak? I'm gonna be going over that inside of this video. But we've been able to get it at around a 10% customer return rate, which is so much better. That's one of the actually key parts to being able to build a brand like this, is having your customers come back and not just telling them to go away after they give you their money once, because that's not how you sustain a brand. Not how you sustain a brand. With that being said, you can see with Reconvert here, we've done over $15,000 with Reconvert. And I know it seems like such a little number compared to our online store, but that 15,000 is pretty much all profit. So very good to have Reconvert, and that's also another thing that we'll be going over inside of this video. Now, when it comes to our sessions, you can obviously see that US was our main country, but when I am scaling a store, you want to slowly but surely make your way into 5 total countries: the US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. That is going to be, you know, those 5 countries that you need, I'd say, as just a standard benchmark. You can obviously venture into other EU countries if you want to as well, but you can see here, US and UK pretty much did the best for us on this store, a little bit of Canada as well, but I'd say those 5 countries are all countries that you want to slowly but surely venture into. Now, I know a lot of people, when it comes to case studies like this, will show their ad managers and go into actual spend and the metrics and stuff. I'm not gonna do that just because we have so many different ad managers and we have heavily risk diversified when it comes to this brand. So we have a lot of different ad managers, and I didn't want to take too much time to do that, but instead I'll just show you guys the actual spending that we have on the credit card. On Amex here, I have a ton of points now after, you know, spending this much. Unfortunately, on my Amex Gold, I've completely maxed out the 4x points, so we're just dealing with 1x points. You can see from the exact dates that we were showing into the Shopify dashboard right here, from December 7th to December 31st. Well, it's not December 7th, but December 10th to January 31st. So similar time frame. We spent $413,000 on our credit card here. And so you can see right here, with Facebook advertising being one of our main driving factors, we also had a good amount of TikTok advertising as well. You can see Upwork right here, and some other just like miscellaneous things here. But you can see Upwork also being a huge part of the credit card billing, which was actually for this brand. And I kind of want to go back and bring ourselves over to the graph here. Some of you guys may have been looking at this and been like, this is a very interesting graph. Let me know more on this. So this actual first hump right here of highs of around $25,000 days was all TikTok. So this right here is 100% TikTok, 0% Facebook advertising. And the reason why we had this huge dump downwards is because our TikTok ad manager actually got banned. And it wasn't because this product is black hat or it's a bad product, it's because we were duplicating so many campaigns. Now, I'm not sure how many other people have actually run into this problem, but we were duplicating 300, 400, 500 campaigns a day using CSV imports. And so that actually caused our account to get flagged and totally taken down. I should have known better at the time, but I was kind of so starstruck by 25K days that we just kept on duplicating, and it resulted in a ban. Now, if we kind of bring ourselves back here to the Amex spending, you can see that we spent a total of $62,000 on the TikTok advertising. And so that was a majority spend kind of in this first little hill, if you'll call it. And so kind of we we bounced back a little bit, coming back over to now this next hill coming up. We can see we slowly but surely kind of scaled up. It's a little more gradual scale, as you can see here. And this was starting to be mainly Facebook. You know, if you saw in the Amex spending, we had a lot of Facebook advertising spend. And this right here is kind of our Facebook arc for this brand. Kind of, I think starting right here and going into right here, we actually started implementing another TikTok ad manager for this brand. So we started to have a little more TikTok spend behind it, but nothing as significant of around 7, 8K a day when we were hitting 16, 17, 18, 20K days. So I think we were spending a couple $1,000s on TikTok kind of at the peak right here. But you can see we were hitting highs of around $46,000 a day, 30, 33, 44, 35, 38, 38, or sorry, 48, 38, 40, and all that good stuff. Now, this video, I want to make it very educational based. Looking at these numbers is all cool. It's really cool to look at. And it was a very fun experience. You can see that we kind of had to scale down a little bit, and I'm going to go over kind of why we had to do that. You know, hitting some 35K days here and there, 30K days, and now we're kind of cruising at around a 10 to 15K mark. So I'm going to let you guys know why we've kind of had to do that. What we've done to actually get a 10% customer return rate, and what we're kind of doing right now to kind of sustain this brand. I think a lot of people watching this video look at numbers like these and think to themselves, you know, it sure would be nice, right? And I used to think that same exact thing. It sure would be nice to be able to hit numbers like that. You absolutely can. Nothing's stopping you. That's number one. And number two, I'm going to do my best to portray as many things that I've learned over these past couple of months over to you to be able to apply to your brands as well. Now, I want to bring us over to our whiteboard here. I think anyone who has scaled a product or has kind of dabbled around, whether it's Facebook or TikTok, you know that advertising is expensive. Advertising is not cheap by any means. As you scale, it's not like your CPAs will stay at that $5 CPA mark that everyone loves to take screenshots of and send to each other. It simply will not, right? When you're spending 20, 30K a day on advertising, your CPAs will not be nearly as close to what it is if you're spending 100, 200. Because you know you're pushing out so much more traffic. There's just no way you can acquire an acquisition for as cheap as you were at a lower scale. The one main thing I think that you need to learn how to actually combat this is how do we combat expensive advertising cost, right? And there's two ways you can look at it. How do we lower CPAs, or how do we obtain higher profit with higher CPAs, okay? And so the reason why you need to look at this in two different ways is because this first one, okay, how do we lower CPAs, is you need to have lower CPAs by a couple of things. Optimizing an offer, optimizing a website, optimizing a funnel, and having good creatives, right? Those are like the four main pillars on how to lower CPAs. But I think another way to look at how to combat high advertising cost is how do we get higher profit with just accepting the inevitable of higher CPAs, right? You can optimize a sales funnel, you can optimize absolutely everything, but you're not gonna go down to $5, $10, $15 CPAs. It's not realistic. So there's a certain point where you have to accept that CPAs are higher, and you have to ask yourself, how can I still work with this, but get higher profit? And so that's a really good question to ask. I think you should start asking yourself is, how can you start getting higher profit? Well, you need to start building a business, right? You can always acquire a customer for $5, $10 and never have them come back, right? But when you have an LTV of a customer, which is my first main point, it's so much more powerful because customers will come back and you're basically getting an acquisition disregarding advertising costs. And so a lot of ways that you can go ahead and make more money on a store is optimizing your upsells and cross sells, having good email flows, making sure that your customers come back. So having a good unboxing experience. The reason why we had to scale down on this brand, going back to the analytics here, kind of going down from right here after the TikTok ad manager ban and also right here, is because we scaled up so high that we didn't have the supply for it. You know what I mean? And I think it's a very bad mindset that a lot of dropshippers have is, oh, the product's working, let me just sell as many units as possible. And as fun as it may seem, it's not worth it, because you can see we had a 3.747% customer return rate, which is actually quite low. The reason why it was quite low is because we had high shipping times. When we were at our store's highest point, we had our longest shipping times. So you can already infer that things did not go well. It was not a fun experience by any means. And so one key aspect to be able to make more profit with having an increased acquisition cost is making sure your customers come back. And that mainly comes by a good branded unboxing experience and fast shipping times. So even if your product works, don't get so starstruck by it. Make sure that you have enough stock to actually scale up to those numbers, that your supplier's shipping stuff out on time, and acquiring a higher returning customer rate by having good email flows set up, right? So that's the second thing I want to go into now is email flows. Email is super easy to actually set up. You can just pay someone on Upwork, someone on Fiverr. They'll set up your whole entire email flows. You can have a flow or a campaign. We send out campaigns whenever we're releasing a new product, and flows are good for if someone abandons checkout, if someone has bought and we want to just talk to them via email, tell them about our brand, introduce them to our whole entire ecosystem. And that's all good ways to introduce an audience and have people come back, right? So all very good ways to actually mitigate a higher advertising cost. And another one, and the last thing I want to go over is upsells. So if you have a store right now, whether it's doing $500 a day or $50,000 a day, if you do not have upsells set up, you are having a massive, massive mistake on your store. I want to go over an app that I use. They're not even sponsoring this video, but it's an amazing app that I love to use, and it's Reconvert. Reconvert is beyond better than a lot of these other upsell apps, is because it's so much more customizable, and it's very, very, very good to use. I use Reconvert on every single one of my stores. I highly recommend using it. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but after you get to know and learn how to use it, it's going to be so easy. You can see from the analytics here, we were able to bring in around $15,000 in extra revenue for Reconvert. I'd say 80% of my Reconvert upsells being digital products. So that's probably around $12,000 in pure profit just from Reconvert alone. So I highly recommend downloading Reconvert and using it as a post-purchase upsell for your store, because it's mandatory to bring in extra profits. Something else I want to go over is how do you make sure you're optimized? A lot of people, especially the TikTok demographic for dropshippers, they love to not be optimized, right? I'd say at least on Facebook, you have to optimize your store. You have to genuinely make sure that things are optimized, have good descriptions. People on TikTok mainly don't care as much, and I can see why. It's more of like a fast-paced moving demographic, but you always want to make sure you're optimized. And what do you want to make sure is optimized? You want to make sure your landing page is optimized, your supply chain is optimized, your platform is optimized, and I didn't say it here, but your offer. I forgot to say that. I want to make sure all this stuff is optimized. And so how do you make sure you're actually optimized? You just have to test. That's the best way to actually find your optimization point, is to test. So in order to find a good landing page that works the best, is you're gonna have to change around your landing page and drive traffic to it to test your conversion rate. Not a 1-2 day test, because on its own, advertising platforms fluctuate enough. You're going to need to test on a 7-day scale is what I like to do if you're testing a new landing page. When it comes to platforms, you wanna make sure you're optimized on platforms. If you currently have a store right now doing $1,000 a day or even $0 a day, and you only know how to do TikTok ads, you have to ask yourself, when I reach a product that works, how am I gonna go into Facebook, right? With this store, you can see that we had this just initial TikTok success, but I knew if something works on TikTok, it'll most likely work on Facebook, right? It's not always the case vice versa, but it is normally the case from TikTok over to Facebook. And you can see I made that exact switch. I said, okay, it works on TikTok, now let's bring it over to Facebook. And that's when we hit our peaks. So you have to ask yourself, do I know how to advertise on both platforms? And if the answer is no, you are missing out. Supply chain. We just went over this. You don't want to overscale your product because it's only going to hurt, and you want to make sure you're optimized with your supply chain. Communicate with your supplier. Say, hey, can we order stock so you have it inside of your warehouse ready to ship, and so we don't have to wait on the factories to get it to you. That's a very important thing, and a lot of people don't even know this. There's like a 1 to 4 day window of when your product actually goes from the factory to your supplier. And so you've already increased the shipping times by 1 to 4 days just to get the product to be shipped out. So you never want to wait on things like that. If you have a product that's working, order that stock. It's worth it. How do you test an offer? Same way that you test the landing page, you just have to change it and test it. A huge recommendation that I have when it comes to testing offers is duplicate your product page, duplicate your product listing, and you can change your offer on there, right? For example, if you're doing a buy one, get one 50% off, let's say for an offer, you can simply just duplicate that product page, make a new product, and make it buy one, get one free, and drive traffic to that URL. And that's an amazing way to test an offer without scratching your whole entire current existing product page that may be bringing you in some profits already. Something else I want to go over is keeping your profits. This is a really big thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's something I genuinely got hit with scaling to such high numbers without a good supply chain, right? And it's keeping your profits. What happens when you scale up super high on a store that can't really sustain these high numbers and you don't have the supply chain and the stock to scale to these high numbers? Well, you get hit with chargebacks, you get hit with a whole bunch of stuff, you get hit with, hey, where's my order? And so you have to hire more VAs, you have to spend more money on virtual assistants, you have more money flowing out that way, you have more flowing out through chargebacks, a mess, right? But the good thing about it is it's easily preventable. In order to keep your profits, you need to make sure that you minimize as many chargebacks as possible, that you have as much stock as possible in a smart sense, not just buying a whole bunch of units knowing it'll take you 5 months to sell out at your current rate. You obviously have to calculate and using an app called Disputifier. All right, these are all 3 really good methods to use. Number 1 with chargebacks is you need to have good customer support. So if you haven't already hired a couple VAs off of Upwork, then I highly recommend doing so. You are going to need to find a good team, not just hire them once and then tell them to go away, but find a very, very good team that you will stick with from now till forever, that you're going to stick with for your stores, and they're going to help you answer your emails, mitigate chargebacks, and basically be there to refund your customers if they have any issues. Next is stock. So going back to with the supplier communications, if you have a product already working really well, then communicate with your supplier and tell them that you want to buy stock. And so if that's the case, then you're going to be able to ship out your products a lot quicker, and you're going to have a lot less people complaining about high shipping times, wondering if they're ever going to get their product, and ultimately keep more money in your pocket for having faster shipping times. Third thing I want to go over is Disputifier. So what Disputifier is it's pretty much a Shopify app. You can search it up on the Shopify app store. It's called Disputifier, and it mitigates all of your chargebacks. So they have this feature in there which basically stops a chargeback before it actually hits your store. And the way that they're able to do this is like integration with the whole banks and everything. They're able to refund an order on your store if someone has already submitted a chargeback before it actually hits your Shopify dashboard. So this is very powerful to keep a good reputation with your actual merchant, whether it's Stripe, Shopify payments, anything like that. This is going to mitigate it because it's going to send them a refund before that chargeback hits. So you don't get hit with that $15 chargeback fee, and you're able to refund them the full amount. So this is all very good ways to keep your profit, and it's pretty much a very essential part to running a business. You can make a whole bunch of money, but if all that money gets taken away from you, then there's no point in making that money in the first place, right? It's just expended energy with nothing in return. Last thing I want to go over is advertising strats. So I have 2 main strategies when it comes to Facebook and TikTok. I guess we'll go over the Facebook one first. Is I use a Facebook bulletproof structure. If you don't know what a bulletproof structure is, I don't want to confuse you too much. It's just a structure where you kind of mitigate risk. So you have your pixel in 1 BM, you have your advertising in 1 BM, you have a couple backup profiles as well, and you continue to kind of go down that line. So you mitigate your risk instead of putting all of your risk in 1 profile, 1 BM, 1 pixel. You can get completely shut down if just that gets taken down. So that's what I do. If you don't know what a bulletproof structure is, then obviously do some research on it. That's what I use for Facebook. I have done interest and broad targeting both on Facebook. I have been liking broad more, although for a good section of the store, we actually used interest testing. We have fully transitioned over to broad testing, but with that being said, both are very good methods. I know people always have like a one or the other type of mindset, but both is highly as good. Now, the main metrics that I look at for Facebook when I'm testing is my CPAs and my cost per add to cart. Obviously, I look at all my other metrics as well, but these are the main 2 things that I look at. How much is it costing us to get an acquisition, and how much is it costing us to actually add to cart? Facebook is really accurate when it comes to an add to cart cost. It's not very accurate when it comes to a CPA. Now, how do you make sure that the CPAs that you're looking at are actually correct? You use an app called TripleWell. I know, there's other profit tracking apps out here, but TripleWell pretty much does it all. They will track your profit, but they'll also tell you where acquisitions are coming in from. So they have a UTM link section, which basically you put at the end of your URL, and it's going to track where a customer is coming from, what certain ad in the ad group, in the campaign that it's coming from, basically show you that the acquisition came from that ad group. It's a very powerful tool to be able to know what to scale. Trust me, I've tried scaling off of the Facebook data, and it will completely destroy you and ruin you. It's not very good. You want to make sure that you have good UTMs in place. That's the only way that you're going to be able to scale sustainably, is having good UTMs. Okay, so I highly recommend using Triple Whale. And when it comes to add to cart cost, when you're testing in the testing phase, you are looking for something pretty cheap, right? Typically day one testing, you're not gonna get much data. I leave my campaigns on for 2, 3, 4 days before making any huge decisions. I know people don't have the budget to be spending that, right? So you typically wanna be looking at add to cart rate as a good metric of how good your product is doing before you get any sales. When it comes to Facebook, I've only seen success with Facebook leaving it on for 3, 4 days, but keeping a good eye on the add to cart cost. That's something to keep in mind is look at your add to cart cost because it's pretty accurate when it comes to Facebook. When it comes to a CPA though, you want to use UTMs. What to do if after a couple of days of testing on Facebook, you are profitable or break even? It's pretty self-explanatory. There's not much else to it. You want to have more creatives and you also want to optimize more. So going back to what we need to optimize over here is make sure everything is set up, your supply chain, your offer, your website, pretty much everything is optimized, and then you'll go ahead and scale. It's going to do you so much more good, especially on Facebook being such a more gradual platform. It's a lot more important to keep in mind. With Facebook as well, the good thing about it is you don't need a crazy amount of creatives. You only need around 30 to 50 creatives a month when it comes to Facebook. So you don't need anything crazy. It's pretty simple and self-explanatory when it comes to Facebook. You're just going to run into a lot of issues with advertising and bans that it's going to give you a headache, but it's the way it is. Now I want to go over my advertising strat for TikTok and what I do when it comes to TikTok scaling, just like we did in this little first initial hump and up here with the store. I use a TikTok agency account. If you don't know what a TikTok agency account, it's stronger than your regular TikTok ad account. You can have worldwide targeting and it doesn't have any spending issues. It actually spends faster and I've actually seen better results with it. So TikTok agency accounts are super helpful. If you do want a TikTok agency account, inside of my Discord server, I offer you guys TikTok agency accounts to buy off of us, Value Club. So you can go ahead and open up a ticket and let us know that you want one. If you do want to get a TikTok agency account, it's a $150 one-time payment, no fees, no subscription, no nothing. With that out of the way, I only do broad targeting on TikTok. Only do broad targeting, and the main metrics that I look at are my CPAs and CPCs. Now keep in mind, these are the two main metrics that I look at, but I obviously look at everything. There's only two metrics I could look at though. It would be my CPAs and my CPCs. If I have a $3 CPC on TikTok, I know that my CPAs are not going to be incredibly low. They typically go in correlation with each other, which is why these two metrics are very important to look at. After one day of testing, you should have a pretty good CPA and a pretty good CPC, right? That's just the way TikTok is, and it's always been like that for me with every single one of my winners. You want to be looking at how good your CPCs are and how good your CPAs are. If you're profitable or break even on TikTok, you want to pump out creatives. This is not like Facebook. You're going to need to have a lot more creative systems and pump out a lot more for TikTok to be able to have some sort of sustainability, okay? So if you're profitable or break even on TikTok day 1 or 2, you want to pump out an insane amount of creatives and scale what works. Typically on TikTok, you see results a lot faster than you do on Facebook, which is why we're able to scale what works a lot faster and a lot quicker. While you're scaling what works, you also want to be building systems and creating an actual outsourced team for your creatives. You don't want to be the person who's managing everything with your store and your business while editing 100 creators a week. It's not smart, and at a certain point, you're just gonna drop dead to the ground. You don't wanna be doing stuff like that. You wanna outsource your creatives as fast as you can if you find something that works. Obviously, once you know what works, you will tell your editors to follow this creative style. That is ultimately something that's very important to keep in mind, is outsourcing. Right? When it comes to TikTok, you need to pump out creatives a whole bunch. All very good stuff that we just went over. I hope that helped and brought you guys into a mindset of how to actually create something that's going to keep you long-term, and it's going to actually sustain you a certain amount of time. I think people are getting tired of having stores that last 2, 3, even a couple of months, but a lot of people don't talk about how to sustain a store for a couple of years. And this is pretty much how you do it. This is the blueprint. It's nothing too crazy. It's just making sure that you're always staying on top of things. Now you may be sitting there and wondering, how did I actually find this product? I've gone over how we've been able to sustain and scale up this product, but how did you actually find it? Because product is a huge part of a brand, right? Without a good product, you're not gonna have a good brand. And so how did I actually find this product? I go over completely and fully transparently my product research method to find this product in my free course. Now, I want to take a couple moments to talk about this free course that I've just released. You can see right here, we have a free course with all of these different sections right here, going over exactly what we've done, or exactly what I've done to be able to scale this store up from 0 to over 7 figures in revenue. Going over everything from credit cards to product research to how to create good offers to making a store from A to Z to more essential apps that I did not go over inside of this video that you need to have on your Shopify store, creating ads, ad accounts and systems, how to scale, my first ever winner, going over the ads and the product. So all crazy good stuff that you can benefit from. And if you want to get access to this, just look at the first link in the description, just put in your email and you'll get sent over an invite link to this Discord server to be able to get started. Basically learn how to dropship A to Z. That's how I found my product. It's inside of this course. And if you want to get access to it, then click on that first link in the description. Other than that, that's all I had for this video. So I'll catch you guys very soon.